Going to be honest with you. A lot of people say they want to lead like Jesus, but Jesus washed feet. He touched lepers. He sat with people most of the rest of us would just walk by. And that's not the model we follow. And until we fix that, whatever title you and I have doesn't matter. So, influencing like Jesus, Jared.
Well, it's going to be a challenge.
It is. And I think the first thing there is he just showed up, right? He showed up. He made himself present.
He was present, yeah.
Yeah. So
he showed up.
Laid his glory by, so.
Born that man no more may die.
Yeah, it's the phrase.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I think so often when we talk about, influencing like Christ or wanting to have that same type of, influence as a leader, you want to be able to speak and people listen. You want to be able to walk and people are following and, in those ways. You got to think about the sacrifice that he made, like to show up.
Right.
Like laying his glory by is like, I mean, he was in heaven as the creator and he literally entered into humanity.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's are you willing to sacrifice like Christ sacrificed? And I think that's, if you're going to show up, I think
to be
challenge.
A good leader, it has to be about sacrifice. It has to be about giving up to raise others up.
Yeah.
And help them become better in general, right?
Yeah.
But if we're following Jesus' model, it's heavy on the sacrifice. Yeah. That's why we've talked about in previous episodes how husbands, love their wives like Christ loved the church.
Sure.
He died. He sacrificed. Yeah. So we need to be given up.
Yeah, and you think about how Christ showed up. I mean, when you read through his accounts, the Gospels, you see him present in people's homes, which is super fascinating. I mean, that was a very intimate thing to do. Like back in that time, you're eating with people, you're in their home. That was like the thing that made the connections deep with people. And he did that. You see him in Mary's home, Martha's home, and Peter's home, like in these different homes, and he would go and he would be with them. He was present. He went to them. And it's not often a leader of his stature would go to people.
Yeah,
like they would go to the leader. Like you got the king coming into your home as opposed to you going to find the golden palace to go see him.
Right.
And so that speaks volumes to me when I read the Gospels.
Yeah, and I guess the question is, to be an effective influence, are we keeping ourselves under his influence on us? So as Pastor Foad likes to say, minister out of the overflow.
Yeah.
There was a youth conference. When I was serving as a youth pastor, I went to a youth conference, and one of the speakers gave this illustration I will never forget. And he talked about how a buddy of his was out in the backyard with I think it was a pellet or a BB gun.
Yeah.
And he had an old soccer ball, and he'd shoot the soccer ball, and it'd roll away, and he'd shoot it again, and it would roll away again, but not as far. And then he'd do it again and roll a little bit further away. And it got to the point when he shot it, it would just kind of, wouldn't move. You could see where the impact was, but the ball wouldn't move any further.
Right.
And I think that's a spiritual lesson for us. If we're not remaining close to the power of the Holy Spirit and Jesus working in our lives, what kind of influence can we really be for him?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's huge. It also is, you could say that analogy works for being present with people.
Yeah.
I mean, thank the Lord we have technology for sometimes we're trying to connect with our teams and things like that. But to really influence people, your presence is huge.
Got to go where they are and not expect them to come to you.
You're going to be talking and they're not going to be, it's like, he's talking from way over there. What good is that? He's not in this circumstance with me. He didn't care about this.
No.
He's just leading from his high top castle deal. So I think him showing up is, when you look at Christ, you want to influence like Christ. I think that is key. You got to be present.
And I think if we all think back to, all right, who had the greatest influence on us? And, why do they have the greatest influence? Like, you talk a lot about your dad, and he was one of the people most present and gave up the most for you in your life. And it would be the same for my dad as well. But I think of other mentors that I've had. Ron James was a spiritual mentor to me, an old youth leader that hung with, and from when I was 13 until I was like 22. He just poured into my life, gave up a lot for me. And man, I would do anything for either of those men because of what they gave up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, a lot of people think too, you know, us as men, you know, taking this into our workplaces and things of that nature. It's like, yeah, well, I manage these things, and I do that from the office, and my team is out there, and blah blah blah. And it's like you have to be with them every second, every day. That's not what that's not the argument we're making.
Right.
I think to have an influence like Christ, they have to know, you know, you're present when you need to be, and you have their back. You know, you're present in that regard. And I remember I may have shared this before. Apologies if I did, but. Maybe an episode or two ago, but my foreman, his name was Ryan, back when I did construction, really appreciated him because the way that the framing crew would work is you'd have some of us that were called framers, and you'd have some, we call them cubbies, you know, they're helpers or whatever, grunts, whatever you want to call them. And the framing team made up of probably 3, 4, 5 of us, our foreman or super, whatever you want to call him, he would work right alongside of us. So he would spend some time in the morning, you know, getting things prepped for us, always staying a step ahead, but he was always on the job.
Right.
You know, and we worked with other crews throughout the years, and we saw other foremans who would sit in the van, you know, half the day and look at the plans, make phone calls. Sometimes you knew they were just, that was their deal with their boss, and they weren't really that present with the guys. And then they'd come out at like, you know, 3 o'clock, 3:30. We're about ready to wrap up, and they're putting their nail bags on. They're trying to get you motivated for the last half an hour of their day. We're like, dude, go away. Nobody cares. You know, but Ryan he would lead us.
Yeah.
But it's because of his presence.
Yeah.
And when he had to leave, he would make sure he set things up for us, and then he'd be like, all right, I'll be back in a couple days. I'm taking my wife here. You know, get this done. If you need me, you know, try not to call me, but if you do, you know, I'll be available for you. And so he was very personable, and very present. And that was huge for us as a crew.
Those leaders, I'm working in the corporate world right now. Was a youth pastor, elder in the church, served in many capacities of leadership, firefighter, EMT. And when you have a leader that's a good leader, it stands out.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And when you have a bad leader, everybody knows.
Yeah.
And everybody talks about it, right?
Yeah.
People leave jobs not for the work they're doing, but because of the people they work for or work with.
Yeah. And the respect that they can gain from people is huge.
Absolutely.
You look at what Christ did and how much his followers loved him and respected him and wanted his presence.
Yeah.
As opposed to leaders who show up and you're like, dude, go away. Like we do better when you're not around, type of a thing.
Yeah, and I told you when we were preparing for this episode, I told you of a story I heard about Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
And I did some research to make sure I got the details right. But in 1994, she spoke at the prayer breakfast here, the National Prayer Breakfast in the U.S.
Yeah.
She was invited. You know, standing in front of political powers, presidents, governors, whoever, you know, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton at the time was there.
Yeah.
You could hear the pin drop when she spoke. And she spoke out against abortion.
Right.
Right. And she spoke plainly, and even though it challenged the audience, the room was filled with political power, but everyone was giving her respect and deference. Why? What was so special about Mother Teresa? Well, you think about all of the sacrifice that
all the service,
service she did for others and for people. So she was listened to because of that respect. And that was common wherever she went. You know, whoever she was with, world powers, and this happened several times overseas in Europe and different political figures over there as well and other places, that she wasn't treated as a political figure, but as the most important voice in the room because of what she'd given up. Right. Because people gave her deference because of this. And sacrifice brings that influence.
It was her love and service of others who gave her
absolutely
the pedestal that she had.
Yeah. So when she spoke, even the most powerful people in the room listened.
Right.
You know, no matter what title they had.
Yeah. Again, because she showed up.
Yeah.
With love and service. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's huge. I love it.
Yeah.
You got to be present.
Well, thanks for watching. We appreciate you. I hope this added value to your life, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.